tip of my tongue. There's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I'll fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. There's mud on the floor, desperate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all. And if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. And keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all. With your wings entwining, you better face the fall. Zero, everybody's trying to be heroes, when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. Are you okay? I'm not that sure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the season opener of the 5th season of the UpperEdge Baadteshop Superspeedway series from the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway, as we bring you coverage on Twitch with the split second and on YouTube with Flatout Racing Network. You're here for the Live Goose 146.3. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Adam Bossy here tonight. Adam, the second straight season we've been here at Talladega for the season opener, but you got to go all the way back to mid-July of last year, the last time that the regulars of this series were even on the racetrack. What did the nerves got to feel like here as they all prepare to take that first turn into turn one?
You know, there's a lot of nerves building up here. I think total right now we have 31 drivers in the session, so a lot of guys going to be built up in this field. That means you're going to have a lot of big drafting packs. Going to be tough to make moves out there.
How we end up seeing last season, of course, Ryan Potter taking a championship. We've got a former champion in David Durand. I believe the only driver that is in the field here tonight that is a former champion has done it twice, and that is Bronson Stafford. How important is it, with it just being 9 races here this year, for drivers to get off on the right foot here with a checkered flag this evening? How aggressive are they going to be to get that victory?
You always want to get that first victory under your belt. You don't want to be getting in 3 races and asking yourself, when am I going to be in that opportunity? You want to position yourself to have that opportunity early on. So being aggressive here tonight. We'll see you guys who really want that championship and really want those checkered flags.
Here you see Bronson Stafford in that number 61, two-time champion of this series. What you're seeing on the racetrack right now is group qualifying. These drivers positioning themselves for tonight's starting lineup based on the lap time they turn here. Obviously, the kind of the super speedway antics, you probably want to be that last car in a pack, get that huge draft, that huge tow down the straightaways to put yourself top of the board. There are some drivers, though, that might end up dragging the brake, may not even put a Q lap down, because this series rewards a lot of bonus points for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is the hard charger award. The driver that picks up the most points or the most positioning from the start of the race to the finish of the race is going to end up getting a little tidy sum of bonus points. So, you know, that's great if you're able to pull it off, but do you want to give up that much track position with, as you mentioned, Adam, the big field that we're going to have here tonight?
Yeah, between the big field, it's a 55 lap race, so you have time to go up there and make moves and try to pass guys. But the question's going to be, where are you going to be able to make those passes on track? You're going to have to time your runs right. You're going to have to make sure that you play nice, because you know, a late move or a late decision might end up taking out, you know, 10 cars in one wreck.
I'm not 100% certain if all of them are in the field here tonight, but at least on the list we had for the drivers that had signed up for the series, 14 rookies are ready to take part in this season's series. What about for them? What is the goal here tonight? Are they out there to prove themselves? I mean, obviously, you know, the drivers that are out here that have the R after their name, they've got experience here on iRacing. They probably have experience with these cars, but they may not necessarily have experience with the drivers that are in this field that have been here for the last 4 seasons. How aggressive do we see them here tonight to try and prove themselves and say, hey, you know, I'm not here just to try and win Rookie of the Year honors. I'm out here to win this championship too.
Yeah, I think as a rookie, part of the problem needs to be, part of your thought process needs to be, you know, who can I play nice with? You're not going to be with these guys all the time, so you got to figure out how guys around you are going to race, and then you're going to have to maybe tailor your racing to how they're racing around you. So it's a bit of a learning curve. You want to be aggressive, but you definitely don't want to make enemies out here early in the season, early in your tenure with the league, and you know, have some struggles down the road. It's going to make it that much harder to win here with these big fields.
I want to make an amendment to one of my previous statements. I said that Bronson Stafford was the only former champion in the field. What actually ended up happening was I was looking down the list and expecting to see our defending champion Ryan Potter in the 99, but since he is the defending champ, he had the right to be the number 1 car here in Season 5, which he has chosen to do. So actually, we have 2 former champions, including the former champ Ryan Potter, looking to get another championship. But a lot of drivers are going to be trying to knock them off that pedestal to get the championship trophy, and it all starts here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. It's going to be one of 2 times that we'll be coming here to this particular racetrack. The other time will be later on, mid-portion of the season, with 2 races on the night, our typical Dega duels. But you saw there that they had finished up the group qualifying session. They have set their starting lineup, and they'll be rolling off the grid at any moment now. Normally, when we see Super Speedway series, usually it comes down to survival and consistency. These drivers here, as we've seen in the last couple of seasons, do have 2 faster pairs at their disposal. How aggressive do you want to be in the early going of this race, knowing you have that mulligan, maybe preserve that second faster pair for later on in the race, or do you kind of throw up your hands and say, you know what? I'm just going to ride at the back for the first half of this race, see what happens, assess the field, and then make my charge when we get to the halfway point.
You know, personally, I would take those 2 pass repairs and let's go be aggressive early on. Let's go use one of those up if we have to, but let's at least get an idea of what the car is able to do. If the car is, you know, going to be a great pushing car instead of a great leading car, you want to know that. That way, when it comes down to 10 to go, 5 to go, if you have a shot for the win, you know where you need to be and how you need to run your car.
Gritting up here on the front straightaway, and of course, the usual moniker that everybody points out when you come to Talladega Superspeedway is Unlike Daytona, where the start-finish line is over in the center of the tri-oval, here you can see it is halfway from the center of the tri-oval all the way over to the entrance of turn 1. That extra few hundred feet could be the difference into you crossing the line first or maybe in fifth, depending on what takes place in that final stretch to the checkered flag. Drivers starting up their engines here in preparation for tonight's 55-lap event. Gotta tell you, I'm a little nervous up here in the booth. I can only imagine the adrenaline that's pumping through these drivers here in preparation for tonight's race. As mentioned, been a bit of a long off season for the regular drivers, and of course for these rookies as well. Their first time getting onto the racetrack. Could be interesting to see what the tempo is going to be like when the green flag drops. And you brought up a good point there, Adam, about the ability of these cars pushing. These are the legacy Xfinity cars, so the Toyotas are Camrys, the Fords are still they're the older Mustangs, the Chevrolets are the older Camaros as well. We saw last year where a couple of drivers had figured out how they are able to do the old two-car tandem. If they can get lined up, get the right toe off the back of a pack, they can move their way up to the front in a minute's notice. So it'll be interesting to see if drivers that haven't necessarily adapted that strategy with these cars take note of the veterans if they apply that here this evening.
I was going to say, those 14 rookies that you talked about, you're going to have to keep their eye on that. If that ends up being the way that you need to move forward, you're really going to have to figure out who your friends are out there, not just your teammates, because very often you find yourself not around them. So who can you rely on, and who can you learn from early on in this race is going to be a big question.
A lot of Toyotas in the field here tonight, and two fast Camrys on the front row, with Robert Pankow grabbing the pole position and the two-time champion Bronson Stafford there to his outside. Of course, mentioned about the fact lots of different ways that you can earn bonus points. Leading a lap, leading the most laps can also garner you bonus points, and we've seen down the home stretch toward a championship, those bonus points definitely come into play. So a lot to fight for here for any driver, depending on where they're running in the field here this evening.
Yeah, for sure. And if you look back in the field at 23rd, Ryan Potter, last season's champion, is going to be back there. So maybe playing that game you talked about of trying to get those bonus points here at the end of the race tonight.
This is what Ryan Potter was known for doing last year. Would not set down a qualifying lap, started at the rear, made his way through all the mayhem, and eventually won the championship in Season 4. We'll see if he can double down and do it again. As here we go, the anticipation is about to come to a head. It's going to be Robert Pankow in that Mobil 1 Toyota Camry that brings us down, and Season 5 of the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series is green.
I'm looking at this top lane here as we go through 1 and 2, and you see these guys really stacked up. I believe that 72 is Matt Muir, who looks like he's jumping out just a little bit there on the start, but they're really packed up compared to that inside line.
Really are. Sebastian Miller is the 83 there, second on that outside line, right up to the back bumper of Bronson Stafford. Inside line, Robert Pankow has the number 17 of Steve Rada, try to help propel him to the front. A little bit of gap between him and the 43, that John Andretti throwback of John Peterson, third on that inside line. Got to have a tight draft if you're going to have the momentum moving forward here. The tighter the draft, the more speed there actually is. It's like 2, 3, 4 cars can actually fight against a pack on the inside line and get it organized in that outside line. Maybe the longer way around the racetrack, but also you can kind of stay in the throttle a little bit longer too. A lot of times, cars on that inside line, they'll get a little loose off the corner. They'll push up the racetrack. You have to breathe a little bit to make sure the thing doesn't snap.
Yeah, and that's going to be, again, a big learning curve tonight. You said that, we're looking at a long time since these guys have been on here. So settle in. You got 55 laps to get it done. Just get yourself comfortable here early on.
Car up on that extreme outside line is the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. Had a good qualifying effort, but looks like he wants to drop to the back. Didn't like what he was seeing up front. Trying to keep those two faster pairs intact for later on in the race. And, well, he drops back, but now it looks like there's a third lane forming because the 81 has jumped up there of Connor Holden. I believe that was the 77 of Curtis Granger that jumped up there as well, leading this third lane. And they're making some hay up there. Some other drivers are noticing that, and they're jumping up to that third lane.
That's the benefit of Talladega is, unlike Daytona, with Talladega, you just have a lot of room to be able to go up there and make these moves. At Daytona, it's a little bit tighter, so you're not going to see this, but it's exciting to see these guys getting after it here early on.
Bronson Stafford saw that run coming with Matt Muir, moved up to block. Not sure you want to be blocking this early on in the going. I mentioned that they have the two faster pairs, but a lot of drivers like to keep them for when the mayhem occurs in the second half of this race, and that could have very easily been our first caution of the night. How about the 5 moving to the front? Andrew Siegel, big push there in the middle groove. He's going to clear himself across the nose of Sebastian Miller, and now he is out in front leading this race. We ended up seeing Siegel, I believe it was midway through last season. He was very impressive in what he was able to do. Now in a full-time capacity here, it will be interesting to see what his championship aspirations are going to be.
I've had the opportunity to race with Andrew Siegel. I actually was a teammate in another league with him, and he can be a very aggressive driver. And it suits him well, though, especially on these plate tracks. He's not afraid to get up there and mix it up with the best of them, as you're seeing here.
Yeah, Andrew Siegel, for those that didn't tune in to last year, made only 2/3 of the start, went to victory lane, and finished 8th in overall points. That just shows what he was able to do. I mean, there were about 9-10 drivers that had made every start in the year that finished behind him. He was able to garner in a lot of bonus points, and very well, if he had run the full season, could have been in that championship conversation, as that middle line continues to have momentum. Now it's the 32 of John Poole III with a big push from Dylan Poteet. A couple of teammates there working together.
Yeah, and you're starting to see some guys, too, who maybe aren't liking the way this front pack is racing. Just saw somebody dip out down the backstretch and get back up into that low lane there in turn 3. So you got to watch that, too, if you're these guys that are racing 3 wide. If somebody's trying to dip out of the pack, you want to make sure you know about it if you're further back.
See who leads this lap between John Poole III and Bronson Stafford. Looks like it was Stafford with a big push from Matt Muir there on that outside line. Gonna be interesting to watch Matt Muir here this season as well. Last year was the first year that he ran in this series, was kind of getting his feet wet, getting used to the racing style of these cars and everything. Now looks like there's a lot more confidence for him as he keeps it glued to the back bumper of Bronson Stafford.
Ooh.
Look at this. Oh, little contact, and there we go. That was the 28, I believe.
Looked like
It's the big one.
It looked like the 61 of Bronson Stafford may have had some initial contact with the 26. We'll have to see what that looks like on replay.
That was the 26, the Davey Allison throwback of Dylan Body. Look at all the torn up race cars we've got here. That's the 64 right there of EJ Stagner. Shout out to our producer, Jeff Johnson there, having that on board on the back bumper of Matt Muir right where the contact ensued for that big one entering into turn 3. Take a look and see exactly how this started. It almost looked like maybe they saw the run come up the third lane. Late blocked by the 72 of Matt Muir. Let's see here with the chopper cam. Oh, our old friend Gapwack came into play right there.
Yeah. I think Bronson there saw that top lane coming in. You saw him move very early to try and protect that top side, maybe even get a run to go in front and take the lead back. But, just those runs are way too big to try and stop on your own. So I understand the need to try and go 4 wide there, or else you're going to really check up the top side. So a lot of guys using fast repairs here more than likely.
That was the 60 of Joey Chapman that moved up slightly as the 26 of Dylan Body was getting that big push and made the 4 wide move. I don't think that Chapman knew he was going to be 4 wide. He was following in the line of the car in front of him, which was Matt Muir. And you could clearly have seen with that aerial view that we had that there was space. Gapwack coming to play. You'll see a good look here from Dylan Poteet. Yeah. And just nowhere to go. The worst places at a super speedway, specifically Talladega, to have a wreck take place are in the tri-oval or heading into a corner, because you don't know which direction the cars are going to slide. Some of them can slide up the bank into the outside wall, some of them can slide down to the grass, and you have to kind of pick and choose and guess where they're going to be by the time you get to their vicinity.
The safest place probably to be is on that inside line. You can always pull the car down. You might spin it through that grass on the inside of the corners, but you're not going to have a torn up race car. If you're all the way up at that wall, you're just kind of hanging on for dear life. But some vicious hits as we're seeing Matt Muir there just take one right in the rear end of that car.
60 almost went up and over, caught some air. Yeah, I mean, Matt Muir, innocent bystander there, thought he was ahead of everything going on, got clipped in the right rear, and as you saw, took that big shot into the back. And to your point, probably going to have a lot of faster pairs handed out here, as we're probably upwards of 20 cars collected up in that wreck, with it starting right up at the front of the field around the 4th position.
And it's important to note too. So you talk about using a lot of these fast repairs, but your fast repairs only do so much for you. If you get into a big wreck like this, you take a big hit, you're gonna end up having to tow, which I believe Dylan Body has had to tow.
We also saw last year, depending on the severity of the contact that a driver would receive in a wreck, they would elect to stay out there with the damaged race car and not use the fast repair. We'll have to see if anybody decides to do that. Obviously, with the big super speedways that we're at this season, Daytona, iRacing Superspeedway, and here at Talladega, you've got the possibility that you can maybe stay on the lead lap, catch a quick caution, or even be able to get a free pass if a yellow flag comes out at the right time and you fall a lap down, and still have those 2 faster pairs intact for later on in the race. I don't think I saw anybody in that wreck that got light contact, though, so I'm not sure how many people would adhere to that. And you're seeing the 5 of Ian Siegel way down the bottom of the racetrack, the 32 of John Poole the third way up on the outside of the racetrack, because another aspect of this series now coming to play, the choose cone right there at the start-finish line. That middle groove is considered the choose cone. On either side, you go on the left lane or the right lane to indicate if you want to start on the inside or the outside row. You saw there Siegel's electing the bottom. John Poole the third going to be up on the top, but don't see that very often at a super speedway, with drivers being able to choose which lane they want to be in. And as you can see right there, the 32 and the 31, this gives the opportunity for teammates to be able to line up on subsequent restarts.
Yeah, and it's always nice when you got your teammate in front of you like that. You have an opportunity to work with somebody you know how they're going to drive, maybe how aggressively you can get up to their back bumper and push them. So it's a really nice, feature to have, and to be able to pick your lane. Maybe your car works better on the top side. So having those options and those decisions, it turns a simple super speedway race into quite the chess match.
For those that are not familiar with this series and some of the rules that they have here that we've seen implemented the last couple of seasons, you're going to see a rather interesting formation here for this restart. You've got 7 cars that elected the top lane. You've got 8 cars down the inside line. So the inside line would basically be the longest line. When you come to pit road under the 1 to green lap, as you see the lights out on the pace car, drivers that come to pit road and leave, they have to line up at the tail end of the longest line. So everybody that was on pit road just moments ago, they have to all line up on the inside line. So you're going to have only 8 cars on the outside line here for this restart, but that's the way that it works with the rules package. And I'm looking through here, Adam. I'm seeing a few drivers that did not take the faster pair. They're sporting some damage. I see the 9 of Shane Tyrion, the 61 of Bronson Stafford, the 17 of Steve Rada. There you see the little ruffle on the 42 on the right front of Roberto Ramirez. So there are a few drivers that got bits and pieces of that wreck, but they didn't take the faster pair on this one.
Well, and the benefit to that is you can go ahead and do that. Save your fast repair, because I'm sure we're not done wrecking yet.
Flagman's got the green flag in hand. It's waving again here. Ian Siegel going to cross the line and put lap 10 on the board. Steve Rada, Chevrolet right behind him. Top sides, the Chevy of JP3 and the Ford of Dylan Poteet. And the inside line got a really good jump. Will Siegel try to clear himself up to the top where that momentum is? Nope, he'll stay committed to the yellow line.
Look at the run off of 2, the 32, the 31, going to pull the 6 with them up there as well. Just almost shot out of a cannon on that high side.
Be Chad Winstead there in the Mark Martin throwback, the number 6. Winstead was very impressive last year. Limited schedule, ran 6 of the 9 races, brought it home with 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s, 10th in overall points at the conclusion. Now looking to run a full-time schedule as well, and right behind him you got the 76, Jacob Holm, the rookie there, and it's, I believe a Ken Schrader throwback if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's so many iconic people have raced that M&M's car. Ken Schrader, Elliott Sadler, just to name a couple of them. And don't look now, but Chad and Jacob are making a charge on that high side there too, just the two of them.
Oh, that 6 get a little loose there off of 2. Don't know if that was just air getting taken off the spoiler or if maybe a little contact, a little late bump there by the 76. Oh, this is a little
Ooh.
sketchy. I think the 6 was going up to block the run Matthew Rodriguez had, and it almost split it 4 wide for the 3rd spot. That helped out the inside line a ton as Poteet's clear for the lead. Poole moves into 2nd, and looks like Siegel's going to be clear for 3rd.
And that just shows you how decisions are going to impact this entire race. You're going to have to be quick, and you're going to have to stay to your gut. If you try to second guess at all, or you wait for that spotter just a split second longer, it might be too late.
Take a look who's on that inside line. 4th car in line there, the blue number 3, Jason Shuey. He started shotgun on the field here tonight. Only took him 12 laps, and granted that big one over into 3, but he's made his way now up into the top 10.
Yeah, and these guys are, the short memory with the wreck that just happened. These guys are not afraid to keep battling it out here as we keep going.
See here with the onboard of Jason Shuey. To his right, and the outside line is the defending champion of Ryan Potter. Both of these drivers started at the rear of the field on the starting grid, and they've made their way up to the front. There he is, the Dairy Queen Chevrolet Camaro, 3rd on that outside line.
Yeah, and you can see these cars just bobbing and weaving around in a line here. If you ever driven down the highway behind a semi-truck and you get a little too close and you feel your car start bouncing around, that's what these guys are all feeling here as they go down the backstretch and into these turns. But they're feeling it at 200 miles an hour, not at 60.
And Poteet continuing to show the way. Looks like the field is broken up a little bit. We've got some good 3-wide action in the lead pack, but then you kind of look back there and there's some stragglers from about the 16th, 17th position on back. It's kind of riding. That could be a mixture of drivers just not liking what they're seeing up here in this lead group. Could also be some drivers with the minimal damage they might have sustained from the earlier wreck, just trying to keep those cars in one piece. You see Blake Trawick on the outside there in the 56, the 7 of Cam Barnes, one of the several rookies taking part here this season. Matt Muir right behind him in the 72. We know that he got quite a bit of damage from that earlier wreck. I would have to assume that he probably took on a faster pair. Yeah, it looks like that car has been completely repaired there.
It looks like we just had Ryan Potter scrape the wall on the top of 3 and 4, so he lost a lot of speed. You can see him kind of sliding back here really quick.
Talked about these cars being difficult to handle when you've got all that air moving around. That might have come into play with him drifting up the track, having that little brush with the safer barrier. It looks like a little scuff right there, maybe behind that right front tire.
It looks like we're starting to settle in here a little bit, Seth. Not a lot of aggressive moves being made, not a lot of 3 wide. We're seeing those guys gap out a little bit. Just kind of riding around here, probably settling in a little bit more.
Yeah, do we attribute that to the big wreck we had over here into turn 3? Obviously, these drivers wanted to kind of go back to school, see what they're able to do with these cars. A lot of experimentation in the early going. Then the yellow flag comes out, and they have a couple of pacing laps to think, oh, wait, it's still a long ways to go. Let's settle it down just the least little bit here, get into a bit of a green flag run, and get ourselves at least into the second half of this race when we really have to start ramping the aggression level up.
Yeah, you want to make sure, once you use that first fast repair, you have one more in your pocket, which is okay because it means, you still have one more do-over. But if I'm these guys, I just need to settle in, figure out where we're kind of sitting for the time being. The one thing I want to keep a note on here, though, I'm looking at when guys came down pit road. A lot of guys came down during that last caution. One guy did not, from my viewpoint, and that looks like it's Andrew Siegel. So if we go and stay green, he may have to make a pit stop all on his own, which is going to be costly for him right now.
Gotta wonder if maybe he'd call in a few favors, have some other drivers come down pit road a little sooner than they would plan, so he has some drivers to work with after making said green flag pit stop. We'll have to keep tabs on that. Dylan Poteet out in front here. A lot of people won't remember, he was a major threat for the championship last season. He ended up going to victory lane twice. He finished second in overall points, 71 points behind Ryan Potter. The big problem for Poteet last season, he could get the checkered flags, but he couldn't match the consistency of Ryan Potter. Potter had 7 top 5s on the year, 9 top 10s. Poteet only had 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s. So obviously he's looking for more checkered flags here this year, but I think he's also going to be looking for that consistency, trying not to get involved in as many wrecks, suffer a lot of poor finishes, because that was kind of his Achilles heel back in season 4.
And the best way to stay out of the wrecks is to stay up front like he's doing right now. So as long as he's leading that line, I'd say he feels pretty good. As we see, oh, contact!
And they're going to go around. That's Ryan Potter, Poteet. Hey, did they just save that?
They might have just saved. I don't see anybody.
And they saved it. There's a caution thrown, but I don't think anyone went completely around. They all kind of aided each other to get straightened out the correct direction again.
Yes, probably the good call to throw the caution. You get guys to check up. You're not going to have anybody really hurting from this one, but great job all around by all these guys, keeping all the tires straight and everybody rolling.
It was a combination of Steve Rada, Dylan Poteet, Jacob Holm. Somehow they were all able to get pointed back the right direction there after pinballing off of each other. It is going to be some pretty significant damage, though, I think, on the 31 and the 17 specifically. Don't know how it would affect them arrow-wise.
I was going to
This
say
is probably the caution that Andrew Siegel was praying for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also Dylan Body, who's 1 lap down, he's back on track now. So this is probably his saving grace as well. But just all around good job keeping all those cars straight. That could have been very disastrous at the front of the field.
And a great job by everybody that was around them, too, giving them the opportunity to gather it back up, because that could have been another half dozen to a dozen drivers collected up if these drivers hadn't been able to get it pointed back in the right direction. Look at the hands.
Ryan Potter is 90 degrees. He's looking head on at the inside wall and just gets hit and bounces right back to going straight. That's incredible.
I love that shot we had right there. You could see the hands going to work, continually driving that race car, even though it was completely out of shape. Here's another look at it there.
Look at it. That
thing's wrecked.
You don't save that.
No, you don't.
The 32's down there dirt track, and he gets away, I don't believe, with any damage at all in that.
While all that was going on, Carl Faust had actually cleared everybody in that third lane and had taken the race lead. So kind of took the shine off of his big moment there, getting to the front.
Guys, I think Andrew Siegel is playing a long game here. I am not seeing him on pit road. It looks like he's still behind the pace car right now.
Look at that. He's driving Eldora there, JP3 down in the grass, never hit the inside wall, and everybody able to continue on. I can't believe I'm saying this, but kind of a harmless big one at Talladega, because we had about 5 drivers that were collected up in that one, but nobody would end up on the tow hook from what we saw.
I don't know if you can use those words together in the same sentence at Talladega.
Yeah, true.
But that is incredible. Dylan Poteet must have a golden horseshoe, because we saw his onboard in that first wreck and how he was able to get through with no damage. And this one, he gets a little bit of damage, but it doesn't look terrible. It looks like he can still go out there and run all right. Maybe not using that fast repair, though, just seeing kind of what he's got.
And that's the interesting thing, too, right? Because, I ended up seeing the 43 with back-end damage. There you saw right there, Joey Chapman in the 60. That's damage he got from the first wreck all the way back in the first 5 laps. and he's up here at the front right now. It's kind of hard to tell until these drivers get up to speed the visible damage, whether it does affect these drivers in their straight line speed, their ability to be able to draft, their ability to be able to push, how competitive they're going to actually be able to be when the green flag drops again.
Yeah, and that's something that if you're 2, 3 cars back, you got to pay attention to, especially with this choose cone rule. You need to make sure that you know who's lining up in front of you, because if you have somebody who has a good amount of damage that's going to impact their arrow and maybe slow them down, you're probably going to have a hard time getting around. You might be caught up in a wreck.
Here comes Siegel to pit road. So he stayed out, got himself a lap led there. And a lot of drivers coming down pit road with him. Carl Faust there, Matthew Rodriguez, Connor Holden. Got about 15 drivers or so coming down pit lane here. That'll turn the lead over to the 6 of Chad Winstead, who, interestingly enough, is going to take the outside line here as the race leader for the upcoming restart, indicated there on that top line at the choose cone.
And as the leader, you can't really go wrong. You're just really hoping that guy behind can give you a good push getting out here at the start. And it's a little bit harder because in NASCAR, you'll see guys stick their hand out the window right by that A-frame and just kind of wave the guy behind them. In iRacing, you don't really have a hand you can stick out your window and wave the guy behind you. So you're either hoping he can hear you on a voice chat, or you're just kind of hoping to time it right with him.
He's going to be lined up with a fellow blue oval, the number 7 of Cam Barnes. Chad Winstead, I love the team name in conglomeration with Robert Pankow and John Poole III. Who cares motorsports? Well, I think people care if they're running up here at the front of the field right now. Also, I kind of think, as I look at this, I think this is actually a split throwback scheme. I said it was a Mark Martin throwback scheme, which I think that's correct on the front end of the car. I think it's a half and half. Mark Martin on the front, Kyle Petty on the back. So that's actually a nice little merge there of the throwback cars.
Yeah, good friends with Chad. He actually races on one of the teams in another league that I run in. Big Mark Martin fan. A lot of throwbacks to him that I've seen him run. This one might be one of my favorites, though. That hood logo, the Hot Wheels on the side, it just all around looks great.
He'll be on the outside of the front row, but the race leader, Jason Shuey, will be on the inside line. And there you see the kind of strange formation again with all the drivers that came to pit lane having to line up on the inside line. So only 4 drivers up on the top. Looks like they did not do the faster pair for Dylan Poteet. He's got that front end damage that we saw him with on pit road earlier. As here we go, down through the tri-oval, green flag set to fly once again, getting closer to the halfway point in tonight's season opener. Good jump there for Winstead, gonna try and maybe clear himself down going into turn 1. Yep, that's exactly what he's gonna do.
That is going to be painful for those 4 cars that are at the top lane now. There is just a line behind them. It looks like somebody's jumping out there at the tail end. Hard to see who that is. But just a long line of cars around this yellow line here at Talladega.
Yeah, you saw Bronson Stafford duck down in front of the 12 of Carl Faust, behind Shane Tyrion in the 9. And you've got Dylan Poteet and Cam Barnes. They're still stuck up on that top line. Looks like Sam Dyer in the powder blue 35 moved up to that outside line. I think I also saw, yeah, Ian Siegel, who had come to pit lane there. Or Andrew Siegel, I'm sorry. He is now trying to work his way back up to the front. He restarted back around the 12th, 13th position, and he's about to crack the top 10 already.
I was going to say, Siegel's got those fresh tires. He's ready to go now. He's come up here and try and get right back to where he was.
First time we've mentioned Robert Kenny's name all night long. He's leading the outside line here, trying to get to the point.
Look at Matt Rod here, the 51 car, Matthew Rodriguez. And then behind him is going to be the 81 of Connor Holden making that third line work. They're going to go almost all the way to the front here.
Yes, they are. That 2-car tandem we were talking about. Oh, they broke up just a little bit. See if they can get formed back up again here off of turn 4. Holden pulling back to the bumper. Ooh, Shane Tyrion sees that run coming. He's going to move up to try and block, and that's going to stack them up.
Siegel's in the wall.
In the wall. Split them 4 wide there, coming to the start-finish line.
Look what that just does to Siegel's speed there. You saw that whole top line check up. Siegel got a little squirrely out of it and gets in the wall, and he just falls like a rock.
Just so risky to try and go up there and block the momentum of that tandem. We've seen it already here tonight. We saw it all of last season. The runs that can be generated with just 2 or 3 cars, they've got 3, 4, 5 mile per hour on you. You're basically a sitting duck if you move up there, and we've already seen a couple of times tonight either the earlier caution or the near cautions we've had that have been a result of blocking. It's a risk versus reward. It's interesting to see who decides to do it and who doesn't. Shane Tyrion again going to move up there and block that third lane of Matthew Rodriguez and Connor Holden.
You know, early on, it's maybe not a bad idea to test that out. If you're coming to the checkered flag and you see somebody getting a run, maybe 2 car lengths back, you're going to have to go throw that block anyway. So why not test it now, especially if you have both of your fast repairs? You might be all right.
Something else we haven't seen tested yet, but I bet we're going to be seeing tested in the late stage of this race. Yeah, there's no yellow line rule in this series, so I bet you're going to see a lot of people trying that apron through the tri-oval and coming back to the start-finish line when we get to the final lap, but nobody's tested the waters of it just yet here this afternoon, and not really sure why you would, at least at this point in time, because I don't want to run the risk that you end up wrecking the car, having to take on a faster pair here. Save that for later on.
You know, there was an old song that said you got to know when to hold them, and out of all those cards, that is one you want to hold on to until the last possible second.
And he taught us well. Bronson Stafford in that middle groove, trying to fight Shane Tyrion on the inside line. Outside line, trying to get a run again with Matthew Rodriguez and Connor Holden. This is impressive. I mean, we knew that the 2-car tandem was a thing, but the fact that you've only got the 51 and the 81 on the top side, when you've got 4 or 5 cars in each of the 2 inside lanes, and they're holding in touch with them, and they're almost passing them.
And they're holding in touch with them with minimal side draft. They're not right on these guys' doors trying to slingshot by them here on the outside as they get a couple more help here from the 7 Cam Barnes and 35 Sam Dyer. They're just kind of hanging on, running their own line. As we get later and later into this race, you're going to see them get tighter and tighter, those inside cars.
Shane Tyrion out in front in the Monster Energy Beast Toyota out of Hula Monkey Motorsports. Former winner from last season was Shane Tyrion. Finished 5th in overall points. So you see the tight draft there of Robert Kenny. Robert Kenny looking to get this season started off right. Last year, he only made 4 starts, but never finished in the top 5. Finished in the top 10, 3 of those 4 starts, but certainly looking to get season 5 started off right. And as we look out the windshield of his number 10 Toyota, just watch the movement here of that lead car of Shane Tyrion. You can see right there the hands moving back and forth through the tri-oval as the car gets a little loose. I mean, to the spectator, it looks like these cars are just out for a Sunday drive, but no, you are constantly working to keep that car going in a straight line.
And, you know, Kenny has probably the best view right now. You only want one car. If you go back to a number 7 there of Cam Barnes, right, he's probably got a lot worse of a view. Just because you have so many cars around you, you can't really see what's coming up. Especially, it's kind of hard going into those turns. You really don't really know where you're at in them until you feel the car load up. So, nice to be out front and not have all those guys moving around.
Connor Holden just ahead of him. You see them 3 wide for the top position. Robert Kenny in the middle, Shane Tyrion on the bottom, Matthew Rodriguez up on the top side. Toyotas all out of the same organization, kind of creating a bit of a wall at the front of the field right now. Inside line going to get the momentum there through 1 and 2 as Winstead will get clear into the 2nd spot. And there's Dylan Body in the 26, who we saw involved in the first caution night over in turn 3. He's been able to work his way back up to the front. And Andrew Siegel, who was in the wall a few laps ago, has been able to now make his way back up here into the conversation for the race lead.
Very impressive, both Dylan Body and Andrew Siegel. Dylan Body was on the tow hook after that first wreck. He went 1 lap down. He's now up here pushing Chad Winstead potentially to the lead. And then Andrew Siegel, we saw drop like a rock in the top lane. And he's right back up here as well. So two guys being very aggressive. Had some misfortune, but they're not laying over and taking it. They're coming
Oh,
right back.
man, that
Oh
26 is not
no!
looking like he's very stable, and he's going to bring it up into the racetrack. He got John Poole to third, and we've got a wreck over here in turn number 2. That car did not look happy all the way into the entrance of turn 1.
Yeah, I saw it as it was moving around there, coming across the stripe. It almost just looked like that it was sliding the rears maybe a little bit, just couldn't get locked up onto the surface here.
There's JP3. Been out in front earlier on. Did we get away with a two-car incident again over there in the corner? I can't believe we did.
I I think we were pretty safe on this one. I don't see anybody who's real far behind the in track here. It looks like they maybe got significant damage.
Well, Dylan Body, out of shape, was trying to clear himself across the nose of Shane Tyrion.
Maybe the 32 has a little bit of damage here, but it's hard to tell. Yeah, he gets maybe the worst of it.
5 of Andrew Siegel got a trunk full of the 32 car, but he was able to keep it going still. Really only 3 cars getting contact in all of that. Again, incredible that we ended up getting away with minimal drivers involved in a wreck that took place in the corner. Here it is on board with John Poole III.
Ooh,
Oh,
ooh.
right there. That overcorrect back by Dylan Body clips the 32. Otherwise, it might have just been the 26 that went around in the infield grass there over in 1 and 2.
Yeah, and sitting in that cockpit, we've all kind of had that moment where you feel the car get turned and you want to try to keep it as straight as possible because if you can save it, then you're in a really good position. But just kind of the nature, and sometimes it's just safer to crank that wheel to the left here and just let it go around. But it almost looks like it just kind of came back up the track.
But you see those hands of Dylan Body there, though, back and forth and back and forth. Pretty much after he had crossed the start finish line, trying to keep that thing underneath him. Looked like he had kind of maybe gathered it back up when he was starting to make his way down. He was following in the tire tracks of Chad Winstead, but just was not clear of the right front of Shane Tyrion. Here's on board with Carl Faust, and oh man. And that's such a tough situation for him because you want to slow to not run into the 32, but at the same time, you're trusting everybody behind you is going to slow down, not run to the back of you.
Yeah, and that's your fingers crossed when you see smoke in front of you. Some guys like to get on the radio and call it out to everybody. Some guys just like to stay quiet and see if they can get through it as much as they can. It is a nerve-wracking moment when that happens in front of you.
Shane Tyrion with a little bit of back end damage there as he had the 5 into the back of his car after he was hit from behind by John Poole III. Third caution of the evening. Outside of the big one that we had back in the first 5 laps of this race, the other 2 haven't been nearly as bad, and big reason for that has been the exemplary driving of everybody involved or around said wrecks.
Yeah, we've had a lot of lucky breaks, is what I would call them. These guys are racing great. There's a lot of skill out here, but I would just call these lucky breaks. There's way too much of these. Probably should have collected a lot more cars.
We thank you all for tuning in to our coverage of the season opener, season 5 of the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Super Speedway series, the Live Goose 146.3. Thanks for joining us over on Twitch here for split second broadcasting and on YouTube at the Flatout Racing Network. Reminder, next week the season continues as we'll be back here on Friday night, February 9th at iRacing Super Speedway, the high-speed 3-mile high-banked Super Speedway. Track that it will be interesting to kind of take notes at next week because it's the venue where the championship is going to be decided later on this year.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see maybe who's going to be a threat. You got to be there in points at the end of the season, but you want to see if you have the ability to get it done early in the season. That's just a huge confidence boost if you can get that.
And only 9 races on the schedule. We'll be here at Talladega again for the Dega Duels. We run Daytona twice. We go to Atlanta Superspeedway, and iRacing Superspeedway is going to be run 3 times here this season, including the season finale. No playoffs either. So it all comes down to whom accumulates the most points in the 9 points races. That puts the emphasis again on the consistency, which we were able to see Ryan Potter do when he won the championship 1 season ago. Chad Winstead has elected the inside line here for the upcoming restart. Looks like a little bit more of a normal restart here with about 11, 12 rows of double wide. Connor Holden will be on the outside here. Cam Barnes, who's dealing with some connection issues there. You see him blinking in and out. We'll see if that affects him for the remainder of this race, but he'll be lining up third. And one of our former winners from last season, Carl Faust, is going to have that number 12 Target Ford Mustang on the outside of row number 2. Looks like for the most part, everybody is going to be all caught up here and ready, as we will have this restart heading into the second half of this race. Going to be 22 to go when they hit the stripe.
Yeah, 22 laps is still a long way to go for these guys. You need to start planning out your move now. Cautions are only going to hurt you. So you need to figure out how to make your way towards the front and see if you can get up here probably within the next 5 or 10 laps.
Safe to assume if we went green from here to the checkers, they probably'd have to come to pit road one more time?
Not 100% sure. Chad Winstead stayed out on that last caution. He's on a 14-lap run. Everybody else is on a 2-lap run. So if we do, maybe Chad's sitting here waiting for another caution to come get as fresh as tires he can.
Green flag back in the air. Winstead will lead them into turn number 1. We saw on the previous restart that middle line get formed very quickly and have a lot of momentum down the backstretch. You can see the 12 of Faust all over the rear bumper of Connor Holden. Watch this push as they make their way down the long back straightaway. Look at the difference in speed, middle line to inside line.
That top line just shoots you out of a cannon every time on the restarts. So I can understand why these guys are going up here to pick it.
Connor Holden says thank you very much, as he'll now move down to the inside and cover Chad Winstead. Now Carl Faust has got Robert Kenny behind him. Oh, Holden tried to come back up. Might have been a little contact between him and Carl Faust, and it forces Faust up to the outside line, and Holden trying to hold on as his car was all sorts of squirrely heading through the tri-oval.
I can't believe we keep saving cars like this.
Right?
Sooner or later, we are going to have a massive, and I don't know who's going to be able to make it through, but right now I'm thinking everybody's going to make it through.
Boy, everybody's been holding a pretty wheel here tonight so far. A lot of great saves here in this one. And we've still got 20 laps to go and they come back around. That put Winstead back out to the point with Cam Barnes. Now, Connor Holden finally got the thing gathered back up. Going to go back to work in that middle line. Robert Kenny, Carl Faust right there as well.
And as a driver, I'd love it if I could see that low lane tighten up, right? If I'm Chad Winstead, I can't really see back there, but I'm hoping my spotter's in my ear telling me that low line needs to get some help. I hope my spotter's trying to work with guys and try to get them tightened up a little bit, get me back out here in front.
Ended up seeing Dylan Body involved in that last caution. He is currently 5 laps down. Joey Chapman is currently also scored 5 laps down. Now, Chapman is still running. He's in the middle of the pack right there. There you see the 60 right behind the 61. I don't see Dylan Body up here in this pack. I think he might be out of this race.
Yeah, I believe he took it to the garage. And, you know, at some point you probably just need to take a deep breath on it. And, you know, we have 2 fast repairs, but maybe you go through them all. There's been a lot of good saves, but a lot of hard hits tonight. So it's very much possible that could have happened.
Break there for Dylan Body. Not the way he wanted to start out the season, but still got 8 races left after tonight. And with the way that the point system works here in this series, nobody is out of the championship picture at the conclusion of this race, regardless of where they finish. as 3 wide at the front continues. Winstead on the bottom, Kenny now the middle. Holden was the middle line driver, but he decided to move up to the 3rd lane there with Carl Faust.
Seth, I was gonna say, you think these guys know that it's go time? We've been 3
I
wide
think,
almost since the drop of the green flag.
yeah, I think they've gotten that message. And they're doing I think they're still doing some experimentation as well. I know we've got 37 laps under our belt here. We've had 3 wide racing so far in the early portions of this race, but I think these drivers are continuing to kind of go to school, put themselves in scenario of, hey, if this was 2 laps to go, what could I do to get myself to the front? Just noticed there the 64 of DJ Stagner as we're on board with Joey Chapman. That's a David Gilliland throwback there with the FreeCreditReport.com sponsorship.
Love it when we come do the Superspeedway races here because you always see so many cool paint schemes, so many throwbacks like that you know, you're not really expecting to come see or you haven't seen in a while. So, really nice job by the painters in this league.
About the 88 right there. That is, I believe, yeah, that is Clint Spillman. And he is right now scored in the 3rd position. Another driver we haven't talked about all night long. He's got that damage on the front end, which I'm assuming would probably have been from the first caution. But that thing is still speedy. It's up here racing hard inside the top 5. Look at those hands going into turn 1. My gracious, you would think it's just a simple little turn to the left and just let the car stick. No, these guys are counter steering like crazy when they go into 1 and 3.
Yeah, these things are sliding around a lot right now. And that has got to be a lot of fun in that race car, though, too. Maybe need a little nerve-wracking if you're the 61 of, like, Bronson Stafford in the middle there, 3 wide. But if you're on that low lane, you're probably having a good time sliding around here.
And a great showing for him and the car in front of him, Cam Barnes. Both of those drivers, Spillman and Barnes, running for the Rookie of the Year here this season. And Barnes has really been up at the front almost all night long, and now Spillman making an appearance, doing a good job there as nobody can get an advantage here. The inside line will forge ahead, then the outside line does, then the middle line. These guys have been stacked up 3 wide for the last 5-6 laps.
Yeah, and you know, I'm gonna pitch this question to you here, Seth. We talked about that yellow line rule not being a thing here, so you can go below that. When do you think the right time is to go jump down there? Because if I'm these guys and I'm not making any progress, maybe I'd show my hand a little earlier.
I kind of feel you have to wait until, if not the white flag lap 2 to go. The big problem with going down to the apron, especially on the back straightaway here for these drivers, is they're already stacked up 3 wide. If you try going down there 4 wide, there's no guarantee that the other drivers are going to let you back up when you get over to the entrance of turn 3.
I think that's going to be a big thing to pay attention to when we come to the last couple of laps and we see somebody maybe try to make it work.
It's like the 3rd lane dissipated a little bit there. Carl Faust now going to pick up Bronson Stafford, Shane Tyrion up there, but most drivers that were up in that 3rd lane elected to jump down to the middle line. Looks like as well of drivers that are still on the racetrack, they're all up here still in this lead lap conversation, with the exception of the 76 of Jacob Holm. Looks like he may have lost the draft, so he'd be hoping for a yellow to catch back up here.
Look at the 88 here as we get to the front of the pack. He's using that double line rule. He's down there making it work.
4 wide as they cross the line. Now, does he get to tuck back in line between the 64? Yeah, he does. DJ Stagner letting him back up. Didn't have to do it. Kind of gentlemanly, letting the 88 merge back up. But yeah, interesting there. Testing the waters is that Hooters Chevrolet.
You know, and that place to do it might be more valuable than doing it on the back straightaway. If you can go down there and do it in the tri-oval, the start-finish line being outside of the exit of the tri-oval in between there and turn 1, you might have a better situation.
Tell you the one thing I'm a little bit nervous about, though, if you try that in the tri-oval, we know that the race cars, when they're up here above the yellow line, are at their lightest. I mean, you can see a lot of movement right there, the cars in that middle line, and we've seen drivers, as they're going into 1 and 3, trying to hang on to the back end of those cars with the counter steering. Is there enough grip? Is there enough security to go down there on the flat of the apron?
You're gonna have to test it and figure out. So I think it's a great call by the 88 there, Clint Spillman, to go down there and get a feel for it now. Because if you wait till the last lap, maybe you go down there, maybe you're just gonna dirt track it through there, and that might not be what you want to do. You might be way slower, or you might wreck half of the field coming to the checkers.
Connor Holden out in front showing the way, coming off a great season back in season 4, finished 4th in overall points, 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s, was in the conversation mathematically for the championship heading into the finale. The reason being, Carl Faust in the still last race of the season, filled in the 81 car, went to victory lane, and with those maximum points, had Connor Holden mathematically eligible to take the championship if he was able to beat the competition of Stagner, Poteet, and the eventual champion Ryan Potter. So Connor Holden trying again here this season, and he's looked really strong no matter which line he's in. You talked about it, kind of going to school of figuring out if you had a car that could lead or a car that could push. It looks like Holden's got both.
And that is the best car that you can have anywhere you go. If you have a car that can work in clean air and in dirty air and be fast all the way around, you're going to be a hard one to beat. You just got to keep your nose clean all night long.
You are not going to deny John Poole III from getting to the front. We've seen him involved in the big one back in the early stages. We saw him dirt tracking through the grass during the second caution, and he is leading the outside line. I believe he might have led that previous lap. He's got a big push from DJ Stagner. The 32 will not be denied.
We're seeing a lot of guys move to that middle lane, kind of the top lane between the two here right now. And that low lane has lost a couple of cars, so we're seeing guys maybe fall back a little bit. Maybe not as tight as what they need to be, and that's why you're seeing the 32 get a big run here out of the exit of 4.
Starting to see some drivers working their way back up to the front as well. How about our pole sitter, Robert Panko? We haven't talked about him since the start of this race. He's the 5th car on that outside line. Below him, you've got Roberto Ramirez in the Allegiant Chevrolet, working his way back up to the front. Last time by scored in the 7th position. So as these laps tick away and we get closer to the checkered flag, drivers that might have said, you know, I'm going to ride for a bit, I'm going to wait and see what happens, now they're feeling this is the time to start picking up spots. How about that 3rd lane? You've got the lap car leading of Joey Chapman, but right behind him, rookie Brandon Lambert up into the top 10 now.
You know, as a rookie, you wanted to bide your time, figure out who you could play nice with, see what these guys were doing. And he's played it to a T. He's been able to work his way up completely.
Only once in the past has Talladega been the home to the season opener. That was last year. The 2 seasons prior was iRacing Superspeedway.
We're not done yet.
Nope. Cam Barnes around in the middle of the pack.
Ooh, a big hit there for Cam Barnes, and the 23 got him just squared up, T-boned on that right rear, it looked like.
The 23 rather, Cole Rosiers, one of our rookies this season. I believe it might have been the 12 of Carl Faust that bounced down into Cam Barnes, and Barnes back up into the pack, but somebody up on that outside line, and it might have actually been the driver we were talking about moments ago, Brandon Lambert. I think he bounced off the wall, and most everything else was in reaction to that. Yep. It was the 60 of Joey Chapman coming off the wall into Faust. Faust gets Barnes, and then the contact there for Rosiers.
Hey, you could
Again, though, another wreck into the corner, and it only involved about 4 drivers.
I think we're building up here. You could feel the intensity from these guys just continuing on and on and on. And I think we're going to build up here. We're going to have a pretty spectacular finish, and that might mean a lot of junked race cars. But we're about to have 28 cars on the lead lap here for the last little run to end this race.
So a little contact as well into the driver's side door for Robert Kenny.
Ooh.
That thing caught some air. I think the right side tires were off the ground.
Just a little bit, and that probably doesn't do any favors to the steering, so you hope he has a fast repair left.
And at this point in time, if you've got two faster pairs available and you've been running most of this race with a damaged race car, do you use one of those mulligans at this point?
You kind of have to at this point. We're gonna probably go back green here with what, 5 to go. So if we said it was go time at 20 to go, I don't know what you would call this, but there is definitely a sense of urgency if you want to get this win.
Also remember, if it is 5 to go, it's 5 to go in regulation. And we do have unlimited overtimes that we can use if necessary. So we may end up using more than 5 laps here in the conclusion of this one. Everybody, for the most part, on pit road. Probably going to see a lot of damaged cars coming in, leaving pit road pristine. There's the 88 of Clint Spillman, the 31 of Dylan Pote. We know they were sporting some damage for most of this race, and they look pretty good. That was a caution there that Billman needed, or I'm sorry, correction, Jacob Holm in the 76, because he had lost the draft. So now he'll be caught up with the lead pack.
It'll be interesting to see. We had about 12 cars stay out here from what I can see. They're going to be on an 18 lap run currently, where everybody else is probably going to have fresh Goodyears here. So, be interesting to see the different grip levels, see if the guys up front are a little bit looser than the guys in the rear, and what that does to the pushes that they can all give.
Gonna have DJ Stagner as our leader when we go back green. Stagner was one of 2 drivers last year that had multiple wins on the season, 2 trips to victory lane. Finished 96 points behind Ryan Potter for the overall points lead. And looking good here in the early going in Season 5. Connor Holden will be in second. John Poole III in third. Robert Panko, our pole sitter, trying to go coast to coast. He's going to line up in the 4th position. And we talked about Sebastian Miller in the early going, as he was one of the better pushers in the first few laps of the race. He kind of faded to the back, but now he's back up here in the top 5 for what could potentially be the final restart of the evening.
Yeah, and we've had 50 laps here now. You have a good notebook of kind of how guys are going to race and what's coming up here in these last 5 laps. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the decisions you're making here as you come to choose cone, but also know too that we may be coming and doing this again, possibly a couple more times, not just one. So maybe don't use all of your tricks just yet, but definitely be prepared to use them.
And as you mentioned, 28 drivers on the lead lap here for this upcoming restart. All 28, with what we've seen here today, the ability to be able to get runs, make moves. They've all still got a shot at this victory, especially in the late going. If we say take the white flag and a wreck takes place on that final lap coming to the checkers, with there being no out of bounds ruling, a driver that maybe crosses the line to take the white flag back outside the top 20 could find themselves up inside the top 5 or even going to victory lane if circumstances work out that way.
Yeah, you're not done yet if anywhere in this pack. If you think that you're out of this race, your crew chief or your spotter needs to be in your ear telling you that this is very much still a winnable race as we get ready to go here.
Lights out atop the iRacing pace car. DJ Stagner elected to take the outside line here, so he'll have Connor Holden as his pusher. John Poole III will be on the inside line with Robert Panko lined up on his back bumper. Still seeing a few cars here, even inside of the top 10, that have little bits of damage here and there. Little ding to the right front fender of John Poole III. Some damage there on the front end of Andrew Siegel, who's down on the apron. Extend a little fuel there?
Yeah, potentially. You also maybe don't want to be up there on that banking. Might heat up the tires a little bit, might scrub them a little bit more, but I'd also be concerned maybe being down around the apron there. You don't want to pick up anything at the apron of the racetrack that may make your tires a little worse.
Well, here we go. You called it right there, Adam. Could be 5 laps to go in regulation when we go back green. EJ Stagner is the control car on the outside line as you've got Chevrolets on the front row. JP3 on that inside line. Green flag in the air. Good jump for Stagner on the top side. And Holden, and maybe even Miller will be clear of the 32 by the time they get into turn 1.
Yeah, and they do, and they all go down to that inside lane. So a lot of cars lining up on that yellow line. But watch the 12 here. The 12 should get a little bit of a run out of 2. Maybe not, because there's just not a lot of help up there.
EJ Stagner and Connor Holden, teammates out of Swamp Motorsports, working together there. There's that outside line. Carl Faust, Sean Billman working together. Look at that. 2 cars up there, about 6, 7 cars down below, and they're producing as much, if not more, speed than the drivers on the inside line. And more drivers moving up there to the middle groove. Third line forming as well. These drivers realizing they gotta go. They can't sit there in line because they're not going to make forward progress if they don't start moving at this point in time.
Yeah, and we talked about guys that have been biding their time. Ryan Potter has now just become the 4th car on the inside there, last year's champion. He is looking to come make a move and maybe get this first checkered flag, show he's still dominant in this series.
This is typical Ryan Potter strategy. We have seen it since the start of tonight's race when he elected not to put down a qualifying time and started at the rear of the field. How about that third lane? You've got Robert Panko up there, but how about another of our rookie class, the 77 of Curtis Granger up there, 2nd car?
Curtis Granger is going to be aggressive. I've had the opportunity to race with him a couple of times. Checkered flag means a lot to him. Hopefully, we can keep it clean here and get all the way around.
Gonna be 3 to go, this time at the line. 3 wide from about 7th place on back. First 3 rows double wide. Faust on the top, Stagner on the bottom, duking it out for the top position.
Starting to see a little bit more side drafting there between the 4 of Robert Panko, and I believe that is the 46. Is that the right number there?
I believe you're right, yep.
And so
Brandon Lambert.
Just got to keep an eye on that as we get tighter into this race and there's less laps to go. You're going to see guys get way closer.
Throw a blanket over about 25 cars in this lead pack. Stagner still with the edge, about half a car length off of turn 4. Middle line tries to come back. Ooh, they got to get themselves formed back up there in that tri-oval. Billman slipped up a little. Poole thought about 4 wide. 2 laps to go at the stripe. They got 1 more circuit to get back to the white, and this race will end officially in 55 laps. If it ends up coming out before we get back around, we're headed into overtime. Here we go, 3 wide for the lead. Big run for Panko on the top.
Who's still got something in their bag of tricks? Who can pull out that little extra piece that they need to come take the lead?
Stacked up all the way from the front to the back of this lead group. And Faust is going to get turned off the nose of Billman.
There it is.
Big one, number 2 through 3 and 4. The caution flies, and we're headed to a green-white checkered. Spillman's around. Faust spinning there on the apron. Caution going to wave. There is, I believe, the 06 down there near the inside wall of Sean Billman. We re-rack him and do it again.
Now becomes the fun part, because as a driver, you're sitting there in your helmet, you're thinking about everything that could be happening all throughout this caution until you take the green flag again.
At the very front of the field, middle line. There's the contact right there.
Yeah, just a push gone wrong, it looked like, which it is go time, and that happens a lot in those situations. So it's unfortunate to see it happen. You would have liked to see these guys battle it out 3 wide, but just kind of a product of Superspeedway racing.
Kind of stacking up there with drivers trying to slow for the wreck. I believe Shane Tyrion, Matthew Rodriguez, Roberto Ramirez, Chad Winstead, all got bits and pieces of this. Oh, Billman going to take a little hit there to the inside wall as well with the right front.
In that inside
Tough
wall.
situation there if you're in that 3rd or 4th car in the respective lanes, because you got to be ready for the checkup. At the same time, you don't want to get off the back bumper of the car you're pushing and stall out that line's momentum.
No, definitely not. And that's the fine line you got to give, and that's kind of why we see these wrecks happen all the time. Is that you don't want to get off the guy's back bumper, but um, Steve Rada almost makes it through that wreck. Just got clipped
Almost.
in the right front there at the very end.
Shane Tyrion might have taken the grass as an avenue to get through that wreck.
Sometimes that's the safest way to get around those wrecks, though. If you're on the inside, just hook it as hard as you can left and keep your foot in it. And you might slide back up behind everybody or in front of everybody that's wrecking behind you.
Only had about 2/3 of a straightaway they would have had to make to get to the white flag. And more drivers further back there getting involved. Jacob Holm, I think, got a piece in the 76. There's another car, I think, that made some contact with Bronson Stafford. Couldn't make out who that was.
Looking at that 76 machine right now, he's got a little right front or left front damage, excuse me. But otherwise, the car looks clean. It just looks like he was able to get it slowed down, stayed out of the way of a lot of these guys, and he's going to be sitting in a really good spot.
That car I was trying to identify that got into the 61 was actually the 6 of Winstead. Winstead had actually made contact prior with a car on the outside line. Then when he came down the track, he flipped the left rear quarter panel of Stafford, and I believe his right front actually popped up into the air for a brief moment. So Chad Winstead with a little bit of a wild ride here.
It's
Some
been good to
caution
see.
waves, and got 2 laps here, at least for one overtime green-white checker. We may have to use a couple of them.
It's been good to see all these cars that are staying on the track. I know in our first wreck we had a couple get a little bit of air, but ever since then we've had a lot of cars staying on track. That means not a lot of crazy hits that are going to tear up your suspension. And that's kind of why you've seen guys maybe not use their fast repairs. But at this point, if you've got one left, you might as well use it if you're not going to lose a whole bunch of positions.
Look back from our 2024 HMR Cameron pace car. DJ Stagner and Connor Holden, they're going to be the front row when we go back green. And to your point, yeah, I think that if you had both faster pairs, definitely use one at this point. If you had only one left, I think you still use it. But you don't know if this is going to be the final restart or not. And that was something that we ended up seeing last year as well, the strategy of when to or when not to use the faster pair. A lot of drivers got caught out with not using their final faster pair when they could have, with having a green flag run to the finish. And we talked to them post-race, and they said, man, if I might have been able to be in the conversation for the win rather than just finishing with a top 10 car if I had taken that faster pair on. So it makes these drivers constantly think not only under green flag conditions, but also here under pacing, especially in the latter stages.
And that's one of the hardest things to do as a driver. You really just want to focus on the task ahead of you, and that's racing your car to the fullest potential to try and win the race. If you have to sit in that car and think about when to make a pit stop or when to use a fast repair or how many positions am I going to use if I pick wrong in the choose, right? There's a lot going through your mind. You got to digest under these yellow flag conditions that can really affect the outcome of your race.
All right, Adam, I'm going to go into the head of the driver here with you. We see the 64 and the 81 lighting up side by side here for this restart. Teammates out of Swamp Motorsports. The previous restart, Stagner and Holden decided to line up nose to tail on the outside line. So are they maybe communicating to maybe pull off the Joey Logano phrased okie dokie, get lined up that way? Or have they decided, you know what, we've worked together this far, now it's the final green-white checkered, we both want this victory, now it's every man for himself, let's just try and see if we can lead our respective lanes?
I think it's actually a third thing here, and that's just controlling the start and controlling the two lanes. You might be all right if your teammate goes and wins it, but you want it to be between you two. You don't want to have a third car jump up here and make this battle way more intense than what it needs to be. So control these two lanes here on the start, and hopefully you can get back to the white.
Well, again, we got to get back here to the white flag for race to be official. It's our first overattempt at overtime here. Green flag in the air, Stagner, Holden, Panko, Miller and Lambert were the top 5. Lambert very slow on that start. The top 5 are going to scamper away, the 5th place driver being Ryan Potter.
Yeah, and I was watching the 81 there. It looked like the shift wasn't clean. As we see DJ, it looks like he's going to get snookered here as he goes into the middle.
It's put in the sucker hole, holding around the top with help from Sebastian Miller. Panko looking for draft, and there is going to be that out of bounds in normal conditions, but inbounds here. That's Bronson Stafford passing 3 or 4 cars below the yellow line.
Oh, and
we got
we're
one around.
wrecking.
Straywick. Roberto Ramirez as well, and several others through the center of 3 and 4. They did not get back to the white, so another overtime green-white checkers. The 42 still spinning. Gosh, I think is the right front pushed in? That thing's off the ground.
That it looks like the throttle is almost stuck on it, but it looks like maybe the right front suspension arm, the pickup point maybe disconnected from the frame, and there's just no traction. Maybe the rear axle a little split too. It's hard to tell, but that thing is it is not going anywhere.
I think, unfortunately, Roberto Ramirez is going to have to cut his losses and probably have to call a tow to get back to pit lane. He got sandwiched up into the wall by the 56 of Blake Treywick, who was the first car I saw around there in the middle of the pack. Treywick had restarted for that green-white checkered in the 9th position.
And as we said, the intensity level just continues to ramp up, as you can kind of see a little bit off of the nose of Jacob. And just Roberto Ramirez getting hit from every angle there on that top side.
I believe that shot from Cole DeRosiers was actually the one that killed the suspension on that car. Also saw the 35 of Sam Dyer got a piece of it, so a few of our rookie class drivers collected up in this.
Yeah, just nowhere to go. You're hoping on that top side that you can get through, and that window just closes in an instant, and there's nowhere to go. And unfortunately, it's a big shot to Roberto Ramirez.
Again, drivers that may still have a faster pair in their hip pocket, gonna have to figure out what to do here. Is watch this ride with Roberto Ramirez when the car comes off the banking. Watch this in the grass. Looks like he's on one of those carnival rides.
Yeah, this is like if you've ever seen the videos when you're on a boat in the middle of a storm and you got the big waves that you're going up and down through. That's what that looked like as he was getting spun there across the track.
Tough break there for Roberto Ramirez. Had made his way back up to the front. Was up there in the top 10 in the latter stages of this race and was looking for a good start to the season. Now, the question is, will he be able to, since he was over there in 3 and 4, will he be able to call the tow, get the repair done, and get back out on the racetrack before the leaders come around and lap him? Because he still could be in the conversation for at least a decent finish, depending on what happens on this upcoming green-white checkered. If he falls a lap down, though, he'd have to rely on another caution to be able to get back in the lead lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm seeing him scored as 1 lap down on my end, so he's gonna have to hope for another caution, and hopefully he can get the damage repaired here before they come back and put him 2 laps down. If he goes 2 down, he's in a much bigger situation.
Well, who is going to take the checkered flag here tonight in the Live Goose 146.3 at Talladega, the season opener of the 5th season of the UpperEdge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series, and look to carry that momentum into next week when we're going to be at the 3-mile iRacing Superspeedway for race number 2, the venue where the championship will eventually be decided. That's going to be next Friday night, right here on FRN on YouTube and split-second broadcasting on Twitch. We hope you join us for that, but we're still looking to see what the end result's going to be here tonight. Last year in the season opener, it was Zach Johnson who went to victory lane. That was the only start that he made the entirety of the year, and he went 1 for 1. He was in a Toyota. The Chevys and the Fords have yet to win here in a season opener at Talladega, so you got a couple of candidates up here towards the front with Stagner and Holden.
Yeah, and
The highest running
Toyota's
board right now would be, what, Winstead, I think?
I believe it is actually Dylan Poteet from what I can see. Um, but a lot of Toyotas up here in front. And one Toyota that I really want to mention, the 61 of Bronson Stafford. What a move going down the backstretch to go underneath that yellow line, put it 4 wide, and clear everybody. Get back up on the racing surface, no problem.
Bronson Stafford has been in this series ever since its inception. Made his first start back in season 1. And of course is a 2-time champion, so he knows all the tricks of what it takes to get it done and pick up a checkered flag here in the Baadteshop Superspeedway series, and see what happens when he goes to work from the 6th place restarting position here, as we will get the green next time by. A lot of teammates up here that can work together out of the conglomerate effort of Hula Monkey Motorsports and Sky Motorsports. You got Stafford as well as Shane Tyrion, Matt Muir, all lined up there, 2nd, 3rd, 4th on the outside line. Robert Kenny right there as well with them as well. Just noticed the 10, 5th on that outside line.
You still have the Swamp guys up there as well, Connor Holden, DJ Stagner, and I believe, is Ryan Potter part of the Swamp team as well, or is he in another?
Yes, he is.
All right, so you got a whole bunch of teammates up here at front. This could get very interesting to see where some alliances fall.
So our 2nd attempt at an overtime green-white checker. Control car going to be Connor Holden on the inside. We'll have the 83 of Sebastian Miller on his outside. Then Stagner, Tyrion, and Potter, the top 5. And we get around to the white flag this time. Our 2nd attempt past regulation. Holden with another great restart. Stagner, like he's going to tuck into 2nd place. Potter was not able to hang with his Swamp Motorsports teammates, though.
And that could be troublesome when you get out of 2 here. That top line is a little bit tighter, so they may be able to run right back up to the front row here.
Connor Holden mentioned he had a great year last year, but he did not get a checkered flag. DJ Stagner had 2. Who wants it more? They may not have to worry about it, because here comes the middle line. Big push for Sebastian Miller, courtesy of Shane Tyrion.
Looking a little bit back, John Poole making that middle lane work. He does not want to be denied tonight in this effort.
And now 3rd lane forms. Tyrion, Stafford, Muir, Kenny, all working together there. 3 wide for the lead as they head in through the tri-oval. Fingers crossed they can make it that extra 100 feet or so. Yes, they will, barely, as the 83 was all sorts of sideways there.
This is about to be an entertaining... Oh, it's the 81!
No! We stay green. We race back.
Big contact in the
Holden,
back here.
That's a tough break for him. Strong car all night long. Tyrion going to edge ahead to the lead.
Look at Bronson Stafford going low now. See if he can get some help.
Big run from John Poole, the 3rd. He's going to take it to the bottom. Stafford tries to block, can't do it. Bounced around. Tyrion around from the lead.
Look at Chad Winstead in the 2nd row there.
At Muir on that top side.
Andrew
He
Siegel
edges ahead of Stafford. Look at Matt Dyer down on the apron back there. Correction, Sam Dyer. Matt Muir might be able to hold them off.
It looks
Matt
like
Muir's
he's
gonna get
got
his
it.
first career win. Look at that.
What a finish.
Driver who was getting his feet wet last season, learning the ropes. He's going to pick up the checkered flag in the season opener here in Season 5. Matt Muir, first career win in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series.
And that is a pristine race car. You see no damage on that car whatsoever. That is one of the cleanest ones I think we'll see out here on track.
Muir with the win. Stafford brings it home 2nd. Andrew Siegel in 3rd. And in the span of that final lap, we had 2 drivers get spun from the race lead, Connor Holden and Shane Tyrion. Muir was on the extreme outside line. Everything else happened underneath him.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to be down there. A lot of these guys spun, didn't really go back up the track until later, and allowed these leaders to just keep racing. I'm really impressed with Andrew Siegel, though, on that. Got up there, he cleared him going below the yellow line. He came up and got a third place finish out of that, and then we saw Bronson Stafford with that move below the double yellow line. He's able to come home in second.
Look at all the drivers pulling up alongside, offering congratulations to Matt Muir. You can tell this is a popular win here tonight as he's burning it down on the front straightaway, and we might have to wait a couple of hours for this burnout to end, because I can only imagine the elation, the relief that's going on in the cockpit of that Toyota Camry.
Yeah, and where you have elation and relief in that Toyota, you've probably got some frustration out of the guys like Connor Holt. Thought that maybe this was their night. We talked about him being such a good car. He ends up getting spun after taking the white. Just hard to recover after that. Finishes back in 27th.
Ups and downs of super speedway racing. Never over till the checkered flag waves, and as we saw there in the entirety of that final 2.5 miles or so, several drivers who looked like they were going to be in the conversation for this victory, their end finishing results is not going to tell the story of how strong, how competitive their cars were the entirety of this race. Matt Muir, right place, right time, and a lot of times in super speedway racing, that's what it comes down to, just the luck of where you are and let everything else happen around you. And that was what happened for driver 72 to be able to pick up this victory here this evening. I believe on that previous restart, Matt Muir actually restarted outside of the top 10. As here you see, there's the Connor Holden incident. Robert
Yeah.
Panko collected up in it. Matthew
Ooh,
Rodriguez gets clipped. There's some big shots there.
Curtis Granger almost goes over there.
A couple of other drivers were down that inside line, got collected. I think Jason Shuey might have gotten a piece. 46. Brandon Lambert, I think, was involved. At that point in time, though, when you've taken the white flag, nobody's going to lift because they know if there's something that happens up ahead, they've got an opportunity to pick up positions, pick up points. That's why you see a lot of the hard hits taken there by the
Yeah.
drivers that end up spinning out, like the 81 of Holden.
Yeah, it was really nice though to
Wow.
see. Man, that car almost just flips right over. Probably, it's very impressive to see that tire still attached to the front of that car.
Ranger, one of the rookies this season, trying to finish out this race with a good debut. Ugh. Art Panko in the 4, he thought the 81 was going to spin back up the racetrack, and it changed its course and went down, so he had nowhere to be able to go. Matthew Rodriguez almost had that cleared as well. He just barely got clipped in, I believe it was his left rear quarter panel, and that sent him spinning.
Yeah. Well, Seth, I believe we have an opportunity here to talk to the top three. I think we can pull up Matt Muir here if you want to talk to the race winner first.
All right, as we're looking at the continual replays here of what went down that final lap, let's see if we can dial up the driver that put it in victory lane here tonight. Let's see if he had any strategy on that final lap with everything that occurred.
Time too. That was lap
At Muir,
63.
it's Adam and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
I'll tell you what. We are up here. We're going back. We're looking over these replays of everything that happened, trying to process it all of how you were able to get through to pick up this victory. I remember back last season, we talked with you. You were saying, you were just trying to get some experience, trying to get your feet wet. One season later, you're a winner here in the Baadteshop Super Speedway Series. How does it feel?
I'm still kind of shocked that it all worked out. I thought I was either gonna get binned or like the seas weren't just gonna part like that. Uh, Coming off of last season though, this is great. I don't think I had a top 5 at all last season. So.
Hey Matt, it's Adam. How do you take this win? You talked about not having a top 5 last season. Now you come out swinging here in the first race with a checkered flag. How do you take that momentum into these next few races and keep it going? Hopefully battling for a championship here soon.
I mean, these cars race. I say this like I'm speaking from experience with these things, but I'm not, because last season was my first season. But like these legacy Xfinity cars produce a lot more chaos. You can do a lot more, so you're not as densely packed. You have more agency. And I think that's the kind of super speedway racing that I'm a little bit more suited to. So I think now that like I got a win under my belt, I kind of Not really gonna say I've figured out what I was doing because I kind of lucked into that one, if we're being honest. But like, it definitely puts me in a lot better position than I was at any point last season.
Adam brought up a good point about your car looking like one of the most pristine cars there in the closing stages of this race. A lot of drivers with dings and dents. Now, we know you were involved in that early wreck, the big one over in turn 3 in the first 5 laps. What was the strategy after that to keep yourself in contention, be up there at the front at the end of this one?
I pretty much just did the old, the classic Superspeedway strategy of ride around in the back. I knew once I burned my fast repair, like that was kind of gonna be it. Like the highest I was at any point in the race, uh, was like 12th until like the last restart or two, after I got turned initially. So that was the plan. Just stay out of trouble. That was a hard lesson learned from last season too, because it seemed like no matter what I do, if I was in the front, if I was in the back, I'd always get caught up in something. So this was the one race where I got that out of the way early and then had a clean car to just save to the end.
A great job for you here tonight. First checkered flag of your career here in this series. I know you want to get back to celebrating, but before we let you go, we're going to give the opportunity to do some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Really just got to thank the Sky Motorsports and by extension the Hula Monkey guys too. We work incredibly well as a unit on the super speedways when we're able to last to the finish, and like we had 2 restarts at the end there where like 4 of us were lined up all in a row. Like I would not have had a chance at it period if it wasn't for those guys all working together. Uh, and then also to Matt Rod and Mike for admitting the series. This series last season was my introduction to league racing and iRacing. I'd been gone for forever, and I hadn't run leagues on the service before that. So this was what sucked me back in, and it's great to see it finally come back after a number of planned and unplanned delays.
Well, congratulations on a job well done here tonight, Matt. Picking up the checkered flag to start out this 5th season. Hopefully, we can continue to see this success down the road beginning next week at iRacing Superspeedway. But for now, go and enjoy that victory. Well deserved.
Thanks.
Well, for every winner, there is always a runner up. Tonight it is Bronson Stafford, the 2-time champion, though. Starts out the season really well, and let's see if we can dial him up right now. Bronson, Adam, and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
I gotcha.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were watching that final run to the checkers. A lot of drivers didn't really look like they were positioned to finish in even inside of the top 5. Saw you and a number of the Sky Motorsports Toyotas jump up to that 3rd lane, made a lot of ground up coming to the white. You had a shot maybe at being able to get Matt for this victory. What little more did you need there coming out of turn 4? Because you're right on his back bumper when you guys got back to the line.
Uh, Getting loose in 3 and 4 just kind of killed the momentum. So, once he cleared off of that, it was just kind of. I knew I wasn't going to catch him in time, so I moved down in front of the 5. That way, if he got a run, it would have pushed him in. At least, if I had the run to make a move and go for it, at least one of us would have still won. But it worked out for Mir's favor. So, not at all one of those nights to be sad about second.
I was gonna say, hey Bronson, it's Adam. It's always tougher being the bridesmaid than it is being the bride, but you had some really strong moves. One of them, which I was really impressed with, was going down the backstretch below the yellow and just clearing everybody. So, how do you take the positives from the night and go maybe try to get a 3rd championship here as we start off the season?
Yeah, I love Super Speedway racing. This car is so much fun with it. You can kind of do whatever you want with it if you have the feel for it, which is really nice. Obviously, second's never as great as winning, but like I said, it's literally a direct teammate for team points with the Sky car and the Hula Monkey group. It's Mir's first oval win, everything like that. So, to be able to go 1-2 with him is always really cool. He's done the paint schemes and graphics and so many things, so it's cool to see him win with his own branding and stuff and all that stuff on the cars and everywhere else. So yeah, I don't know. Should be a fun season. The car is fun. They draft really good. Yeah, the 4 wide move on the apron was fun. I think people forgot there's no yellow line rule right there.
We were waiting on it, I can tell you that.
We were.
And it was
We didn't
very
make drivers
exciting.
I think people forgot because I think I was the only one that did it.
We saw, I think it was Andy Siegel make that move coming out of 4 too and drop down there. So, um, but it was very surprising to see it as late as it was, but very entertaining when he did it. It was very cool to see it pulled off the way it was.
Glad I can entertain.
Well, Bronson, obviously a good run for you tonight, regardless of not getting that checkered flag. We know that wins are important in this series, but consistency is as well. Great way to start out the year in your attempt to go for that third championship trophy. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank yous and sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, yeah. The whole Sky Motorsports Hula Monkey crew, we had a really strong showing. I mean, we literally had 4 of us right there at the end with Matt Rod still running. We should see Mike on track here soon. I think he's just waiting on his pedals, so hopefully the next week he's got them all. And Joey was running. I think we should have Tom at some points and stuff too, but obviously all that. Matt Rod and Mike throwing this together. I don't know what season this is, 4, 5, something like that. We've done a good couple of them now, and they're always good fun. We had a good sized field, so show everyone coming out, and it was relatively a good race. Nothing too bad about it. And shout out you guys for broadcasting. I know we have Jeff up here with Split Second now, and kind of like an FRN, collaboration thing going on or something. I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. All the people. You're not alone anymore, Seth.
Not alone indeed. I appreciate the help that I'm getting for sure. Bronson, congratulations on the victory here I'm sorry, in second place here this evening. We look forward to seeing what you're able to do here heading into iRacing Superspeedway next week as you look to maybe get that one position better.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, let's see if we can dial up the driver that brought it home in the third position here tonight, completing the podium. That would be Andrew Siegel. Andrew, it's Adam and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
I got you loud and clear.
I'll tell you what, one of the talking points last year was looking forward to seeing what you were going to be able to do in a full-time capacity. We saw you run 2/3 of the races last season, went to victory lane, and finished 6th in overall points. Great start to season 5 with you here this evening, but not without having to kind of work your way back up to the front a couple of times. We saw you brush the wall at one point and drop outside of the top 10. We saw you get clipped down on the apron at another point. How difficult was it to keep in it to be able to fight your way back up to the front and be in the conversation for this checkered flag at the end of the night?
Well, I tell you what, it was one wild race for myself. I made quite a few mistakes, but it all worked out towards the end there. And I was, at the beginning of the race, I was saving a lot, led some laps, then decided to pit there. I think about lap 15, 16. I can't remember that first caution, but got mired back in traffic, got involved in, I believe, Dylan Body's spin at the front, got nose damage. Thought I'd be free and clear there, and had about 58 seconds damage, but still had nose damage. That kind of hurt me a little while. So I was riding around about halfway and made a mistake at that first green white checker with the EOL, with the choose cone violation. I was content on getting about the top 15, so I got lucky here tonight, and somehow pulled out a third.
I was gonna say, Andy, it's Adam. You say you got lucky, but we were just watching from roof cam here the replay of that final lap, and the move you made out of 4. There was a lot of guys beating and banging around you, and you just kept in it and able to really get it down off of the corner off of 4 there. You got by almost, I think, probably 6 cars in the span of that exit. So, is that something you were saving in your back pocket, waiting for the right moment, or just kind of instinct took over, saw an opening, and had to go for it?
I'll tell you what, Adam. I'm gonna have to buy a lottery ticket after that because I was lucky there. I tell you what, I thought going down there, I thought my back end was gonna go around on me, and I thought I was done there, and somehow it stuck. Got a huge run, and I was watching the front 2 guys battle it out. And I thought, oh, if they stay up there, I'm gonna pull this car in victory lane. But Bronson came down and just in time, so I gave him a push, and it was something there at the end.
So I mentioned about the fact last year you went to Victory Lane. It was here at this venue, Talladega Superspeedway. Next week we're going to iRacing Superspeedway. You made 2 starts at that track last season, finished 3rd and 4th. So with the good start here tonight, what does that do for the confidence level heading into next week?
I tell you what, after tonight, the confidence is a lot higher now after this, and going to iRacing Super Speedway. The track's been good to me, and hopefully I can get 2 spots better next week.
Well, hopefully so. Andrew, congratulations on the podium run here tonight to open up the season. Before we let you go, though, we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Well, first I gotta thank the new sponsor, High Rock Vodka, of course, coming on this year, and Filter Time and everybody else on the car. I also got to thank Dylan for the killer scheme, a little bit of a throwback, a little bit, and already to go for next week already.
So are we. Should be a good one next week after what we saw here tonight at Talladega. Andrew Siegel, 3rd place finisher here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck next week.
Thank you, guys.
That's going to be bringing our coverage to a close. The thing I loved there, Adam, when we had that onboard of Siegel, he took the white flag, I think somewhere around the 15th position, gained 12
Yes.
spots in the span of that one lap. That was fun to watch.
That was very entertaining to watch, and that last move, just pulling it off of 4. He says it was lucky, but I think there's a little bit of skill, a little bit of instinct there to just go down there and take what's available.
A lot of really cool stories coming out of this one. Matt Muir, of course, with that victory. Chad Winstead, who, had, if I'm not mistaken, was involved in the caution prior to the final restart and was able to work his way back up for a top 5 in 4th. Sebastian Miller, strong all night long, brings it home in 5th. I think we talked a whole lot about Blake Trawick. He's going to get 6th. Ryan Potter, the typical Ryan Potter staple. Start at the back, work your way to the front in the closing stages. He nets a top 10 in 7th. Sean Billman going to bring it home in 8th. Robert Kenny in 9th. And Steve Rada, I think, was involved in a couple of the cautions here tonight. So took some pretty good shots to the right front. And he's going to salvage a top 10 run here tonight. So a lot of drivers with some good footing heading into next week.
Yeah, for sure. And Robert Kenny plus 21 on the positions there. So, and started in the back, went forward. It'd be interesting to see if that is the hard charger of the race there.
I believe it would be by leaps and bounds over the other drivers. So he'll net some valuable bonus points. Looks like some bonus points will also be headed in the direction of John Peterson, losing 12 positions from 5th down to 17th. I believe it's the Heartbreak Award where some points are given out. So yeah, even if you don't get the best of finishing positions, you may come away with some bonus points towards the championship. But a bunch of drivers finishing down here. As I said, there are going to be drivers that finished in the latter portion of the field that was not going to resemble just how strong of cars they had. You look at John Poole III, DJ Stagner. These were drivers that were fighting for the lead for most of this race. Clint Spillman was up in the top 5 for a good portion of this one. Carl Faust was maybe one of the best pushers on the night, and these drivers are going to finish outside of the top 10. But the good news for them is, the season's still young. There's still plenty of opportunity to be able to gain back any points they might have lost this evening, and then you get to the heartbreak stories back here.
Yeah, I think the biggest one here, Robert Pankow minus 25 on the night. We saw him up front a little bit. Connor Holden there, we thought at the end maybe had a really good shot to win, lining up with his teammates. He was leading the race at the white flag and ends up finishing 27th here on the night.
I believe the only driver, maybe there were 2 drivers that failed to reach the conclusion. Dylan Body, we know, retired out of the race, and Roberto Ramirez, not sure if he ended up getting back out on the racetrack after we saw the suspension damage he sustained from one of the later wrecks. But that is the 30 drivers there that finished out tonight's event. Connor Holden We'll have to see if he'll be as strong next week as he was here tonight to try and gain back the points he lost. But next week, a little bit longer of a racetrack, a little bit wider of a racetrack as well. This racetrack above the yellow line can hold them 4 wide. Next week, iRacing Superspeedway, it can go 5 wide, and they've got that below the yellow line option as well. We could see 6 or 7 wide next week.
Yeah, and I almost attribute iRacing Superspeedway to kind of how Auto Club races, right? You'll see guys want to be kind of in line with each other going down these long straightaways, but going off into the turns, you have so much space, you can kind of fan out and go wherever your car feels the best. So it'd be really interesting to see how these guys all race together like that, and probably some of the large battles we'll get to see on track all simultaneously.
I want to give a shout out to our producer, Jeff Johnson, for the incredible job he did tonight, giving us all of the sights and sounds and looks of what went down here at Talladega Superspeedway. Adam, a pleasure to have you up here in the booth. Cannot wait to see what the future holds with what we just saw here tonight.
Yeah, for sure, Seth. Appreciate both of you guys letting me up in here and calling this race. Had a ton of fun tonight. Can't wait to see the rest of the season. Some of the excitement as we get down to the championship race here.
Absolutely. Well, we will continue on this 5th season of the UpperEdge Racing Body Super Speedway Series next Friday night at the high banks of iRacing Super Speedway. Hope you guys will join us for that, both on Twitch and on YouTube. For our producer, Jeff Johnson, for Adam Bossy up here in the booth, I'm Seth Cole. Have a great rest of your Friday night. We'll see you guys next week.